Hello and welcome. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran and you're watching a special broadcast here on DD India. Now on 28th January, US President Donald Trump unveiled a document titled Peace to Prosperity, a vision to improve the lives of the Palestinian and Israeli people. It was a renewed attempt at peace between Israelis and Palestinians. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was present on the occasion at the White House, but the Palestinians were conspicuous by their absence. Right, joining me in the studio are two very special guests, Navtej Sarna, who has served as India's ambassador to the United States, the United Kingdom and Israel, and Sreeram Chaulia, Professor and Dean at the Jindal School of International Affairs. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us on DD India. Appreciate it. Professor Chaulia, if I can come to you now, the Trump proposal essentially talks about a state of Israel and a future state of Palestine conditioned upon Palestine fulfilling certain criteria, including demilitarization of their various groups operating in Gaza and elsewhere. But the question remains, as Ambassador Sarna pointed out, what happens to the two-state solution? Is the two-state solution well and truly dead, or you think it's still very much on the table as we speak?
Well, you're right. I mean, this vision for peace that Trump has unveiled really has no place for a sovereign state of Palestine. I mean, he's saying that it's possible and that they should take this offer and eventually agree to the constricted the terms, demilitarization, and basically the surrounded by Israel on all sides. You know, because once they concede the Jordan Valley, then we are talking about Israel on the north, south, east and west of the truncated Palestinian state. So in that sense, it's dead on arrival as far as the Palestinians are concerned. But and the sweetener that he's offering, the $50 billion assistance, presumably that is likely to be ponied up by the Gulf monarchies, some of whom were even present at the time when Trump was announcing this. But even that is, doubtful. I mean, there are lots of such commitments that never come through. So from a Palestinian point of view, this is completely one-sided. And the West Bank settlements that are now Israel is being given to assert its sovereignty will essentially mean that 30% of what is today West Bank will also become part of the state of Israel, legally speaking. So all of this means that, and Gaza and West Bank, if you see the map, are separated, and Trump is saying we are going to build a tunnel to connect the two. But that will again be subject to Israeli disruption. So in that sense, a sovereign nation state of Palestine is difficult to see coming, And some of this also has to do with the domestic dynamic within the Palestinian community, because Hamas and Fatah have been divided, and Fatah still controls the Palestinian Authority in Ramallah in the West Bank, while Hamas is entrenched in Gaza. And I think the neighboring countries, what Trump was really hoping was what they call the outside-in approach, to get the buy-in of Jordan and of Egypt and of Syria and other countries which have historically had direct stakes in the fate of the Palestinians. They host Lebanon, they host a lot of the Palestinian refugees. But I think essentially what Trump is saying is, this is an election year. I need, as Ambassador Sarna was saying, the evangelical Christians is a large community. We're talking of 30 million people or so in the US. And they believe in this, biblical prophecy that the second coming of Christ is only possible if the Jewish people control the Holy Lands. And so it's a very partisan peace plan, if at all you can call it that. And in that sense, but nonetheless, you see, the problem is that the Palestinians are marginalized. In many ways, their cause used to animate the Arab street and Arab elites for many years, but no longer so. A lot of the Arab countries, you see the reaction of Saudi Arabia, you see the reaction of UAE, even Jordan, it's been muted, and they have not really been critical, and some have even said we must appreciate Trump's effort. So what that means is the Palestinians, because of the Iran factor, a lot of the Sunni Arab states have now downplayed the Palestinian issue. And so from time to time you see violent eruptions, Ramesh, of protests and marches in Gaza and so on, and firing and killing of people, but otherwise their attempts to put themselves back on the world map are fading, and this latest move in a way is really a gift to Israel from Trump, and especially to Prime Minister Netanyahu, who is again running for re-election for a third time. So in that sense, it's a domestic political coup for Trump himself, and also to help his friend Netanyahu, but I very much doubt it will move the process forward insofar as the solutions are concerned.
All right, fair point. You've raised a number of valid points there. Professor, as Ambassador Sarna mentioned, the document also lays a timeline. It says we are going to give this a 4-year time period for all parties concerned to make a choice, make a determination. In a sense, is Trump saying to the Palestinians, this is the best we can offer you, take it or leave it?
Yeah, you know, Ramesh, the word Netanyahu and Trump have been using is realistic, when they are saying that essentially it's like a victor's peace that they want to impose, you know. And
so are they ramming it down the Palestinians' throat in a sense that this is the best deal we got, accept this or face the consequences?
Yeah, see, if you look at the map of these disputed territories going back to the creation of Israel, there was a time when there was a whole of Palestine, then they lost chunks in 1967 war, then they got back Gaza, which Israel had taken, but again, it's still under restriction, it's still not a sovereign space. So if you look at it, it is shrinking, right? The space that the Palestinians, there are about 4.5 million Palestinians within the state of Israel, or the state of Palestine, or the, you know, the proposed state of Palestine. So, and there are, you know, far many more refugees in the neighboring countries. So if we add up, there are 15 million Palestinians approximately worldwide. So for them, the space has been shrinking. And so what Trump is saying is, look, idealism and aspirations and all, and historical grievances are all okay, but the point is, and he said, you know, for a long time Palestinians are being used as pawns.
Right.
And there he is referring probably to Israel, to Iran, because he thinks that the Iranians are manipulating Hamas, you know, to commit terrorism against Israel and US allies in the region. So the notion is the Palestinians don't really have agency of their own. As far as Trump goes, and his, you know, no questions asked support for Israel goes, they should accept, because it may shrink even further in another 10 years given the military and economic predominance of Israel. And if he gets re-elected, then we're talking about 4 more years of, you know, a very, very partisan pro-Israel policy from the US, which essentially will completely, you know, cut Palestinian aspirations to size. So, you know, historically peace processes show that sometimes there are certain offers on the table that look unpalatable at that moment, but then we don't want to regret it later. But I think the issue is not so much whether this is realistic or not. The issue is with the Palestinian sentiment. You see, Mahmoud Abbas or the Hamas leadership cannot, you know, commit political suicide by accepting something like this. So they may be wanting to wait it out 4 years or longer. They may be hoping that maybe if there's a democratic administration in the future, possibly it may go back to, at least in Obama's time, there was still that honest broker or neutrality to some extent, and Obama was critical of Israeli settlement, you know, expansion and such things. So given the sharp reversals you're seeing in the US polity, you know, in policies between one administration to the other, the Palestinians' best case scenario is to just wait it out, resist this peace plan, not accept it, and then eventually hope for a turnaround with a more liberal or a moderate direction, or a fairer America that in the future might give them a better deal.
Indeed. Professor, last word to you. Prime Minister Modi has traveled to all countries of consequence in the region: Israel, Palestine, Saudi Arabia, Iran. Your thoughts, closing thoughts on the way forward as far as India is concerned?
Well, we've done this balancing act for a while, Ramesh, but I think on the matter of principle, which is a two-state solution that should be negotiated bilaterally between two sides and should not be imposed, especially by, you know, a dishonest broker like the US, I think it's quite clear that on this matter we don't agree with the US position. But at the same time, you know, we have to ensure that it does not have a blowback effect in terms of our, you know, our expat community there, and also, you know, the trend of, you know, global jihadism and such thing, because some of these policies that Trump has taken has radicalized a lot of people in the region and wanting to take revenge, the ISIS factor from that region and its potential impact on the Indian subcontinent. There is supposed ISIS caliphate or branch being planned here. So I think we need to watch out for the cross currents that emanate from these kind of biased foreign policies, and which might have a negative impact on our national security as well. But overall, our diplomatic position is quite clear. We support the Palestinian state and the moderate factions within the Palestinian community, and I think our support to the PA and to the Ramallah, the authorities will remain. But at the same time, we would want some kind of movement forward so that this is not stuck forever like a frozen conflict.
All right, on that note, Professor Chaulia and Ambassador Sarna, thank you so much for joining us on this special broadcast. Appreciate it.